The billionaire's pen was already on the paper, his signature just an inch away, when the maid suddenly screamed, "Stop! Don't sign it!" The entire dining hall froze. His wife's face twisted in rage, her voice shaking the chandelier as she shouted, "Who do you think you are to speak? You are just a maid." But the maid's finger trembled as she pointed to the contract on the table. "Sir, there's something wrong. Before we dive in, drop your city in the comments. We'd love to know where you're watching from. And don't forget to like and subscribe, so you never miss another powerful story like this." Now let's continue. David Cole was no ordinary man. He was one of the richest men in Lagos. Sleek, confident, feared, and admired. His company built skyscrapers. His name opened doors. But at home, David was just a tired man, surrounded by walls colder than his marble floors. On this day, he sat in his dining room, a place that looked more like a European palace than a home. Across him was his wife, Clara, beautiful, proud, dressed in flaming red. Next to him lay a mountain of documents, contracts worth billions. Clara leaned closer, pressing her palm against the paper. "Baby, this is it. Once you sign, the merger goes through, and we will be unstoppable," she whispered, her voice dripping with sweetness. David's gold pen hovered over the line. His whole empire balanced on this stroke of ink. Investors were waiting. Cameras were waiting. The world was waiting. But then the silence cracked. "Stop. Please don't sign it." It was Mary, the quiet maid who had been dusting the edge of the room. Nobody ever noticed her. But now everyone's eyes burned into her. Claire's anger exploded at once. "Who gave you the right to open your mouth here?" She slammed her fist on the table. David froze, turning his eyes slowly toward the trembling maid. Her hands still wore yellow cleaning gloves, her apron slightly stained from the day's work. She looked nothing like someone who should dare challenge a billionaire's contract. But Mary's eyes were firm. "Sir, I noticed something. The numbers on page 3 don't match the cover page. It's not the same amount." David blinked, confused, suspicious. "What are you talking about?" Mary's voice shook. "On the first page, it says the company is being valued at 50 billion naira. But on page 3, it says 35 billion. Someone changed the contract." Her words fell like knives into the room. David grabbed the papers, flipping them with sharp movements. Clara rushed in, snatching some to stop him. "It's nothing. She doesn't know what she's saying. She's just a maid. What does she know about business?" But David wasn't listening anymore. His sharp eyes scanned the pages like a hawk. And then his hand froze. Mary was right. The numbers were different. One page quoted 50 billion, another 35. A hidden detail. A small change. Enough to make him lose 15 billion naira with just one careless signature. David leaned back in shock. His face darkened as silence swallowed the room. For years he had trusted Clara. She had been there through his rise, through his storms. But now something didn't add up. "Clara," he said slowly, his voice low and dangerous. "Why are these numbers different?" She laughed nervously, brushing her hair back. "Oh, my love, it's a printing mistake. Paperwork errors happen all the time." "No," Mary's voice cut her off. Her eyes glistened. "I clean these papers almost every day. I see them lying around. This one was changed. Someone tampered with it." Clara's face lost its glow, her lips tightening with rage. "You dare accuse me in my own home? You stupid girl." But David pressed harder. "Is it true? Did you know about this, Clara?" For the first time, Clara faltered. Her eyes ran away from his, and in that crack of silence, the truth leaked like poison. This wasn't a mistake. It was a setup. David's jaw clenched. "I would have lost 15 billion naira because of this. And you wanted me to sign blind." Clara's voice rose, desperate now. "You don't understand. This deal guarantees our power. Once you merge with them, no one can touch us. Don't throw it away because of a worthless maid." But David no longer saw Clara as his partner. He saw danger, betrayal. A snake at his table dressed in red. Mary stood frozen, regretting she had spoken. She could already imagine the punishment waiting for her. Maybe she would be thrown out into the street. Maybe worse. But something in David's face gave her courage. "Sir," she whispered, her voice like a trembling candle. "When I clean, I see many things. I try not to look, but I noticed this contract looked different. I couldn't stay quiet today. Please forgive me." David stared at her. For years, no one had dared talk to him that way. Not even his managers. Not even his so-called friends. Yet here was a maid, risking everything to speak truth. Something stirred inside him. Something buried deep. Clara, however, was fuming. She leapt up, pointing her manicured finger at the trembling girl. "You are fired. Tonight. Get out of this house." Mary lowered her head, ready for the blow. But David's voice thundered louder than anything. "No. She stays." The chandelier shook as his words cut the air like steel. Clara turned in shock. "What? You're choosing her over me? Over your wife?" David's eyes, usually calm, were blazing. "I'm choosing the truth. And right now, she is the only one in this room who gave it to me." Clara's breath caught, her chest heaving in fury. The room turned into a battlefield of silence. Papers rustled faintly as David pushed the contract away. Clara stormed out, heels clicking like gunshots across the marble floor. But her last words before the door slammed rattled the walls. "You'll regret this. Both of you." Mary stood frozen, heart hammering, unsure if she had just saved or destroyed herself. David leaned back slowly, his face caught between rage and gratitude. His empire had almost crumbled in one signature. 15 billion stolen in silence. But one maid's eyes had seen what his board of directors, his lawyers, and even he himself missed. And suddenly, his heart wasn't just stirred, it was conflicted. He looked at Mary, really looked at her, for the first time. And in that quiet moment, a dangerous truth began to bloom in his chest. The person he trusted least may become the only one he could trust at all. The mansion felt different after that day. The grandeur looked the same. The shiny marble floors, crystal chandeliers, servants moving silently. But the air was no longer calm. David and Clara hardly spoke. When they did, the words were knives. David kept replaying the scene in his head. The way Mary's trembling voice had broken the silence. The way his wife's face had cracked with guilt. And for the first time, he wondered, how many times have I trusted the wrong people? Meanwhile, Mary kept her distance. She wiped windows, dusted shelves, polished furniture. But every time David walked into a room, her heartbeat went wild. Was she safe? Did he still trust her? Or was she just one mistake away from being thrown out? But under the surface, Clara was plotting. She had tasted power. She wouldn't let a maid ruin everything. Not when billions were at stake. And not when another woman had dared to catch her husband's eyes. Late one night, David sat alone in his office, staring at spreadsheets on his laptop. The numbers danced like ghosts, but he couldn't focus. He heard soft footsteps. Not loud like Clara's sharp heels. Softer. He turned. It was Mary, holding a tray of tea. I thought you might still be working, sir," she whispered. David almost smiled. "You don't have to do this at night." Mary carefully placed the tray, but her eyes fell on the laptop. She hesitated. Then she spoke carefully. "Sir, I'm sorry, but this page looks wrong. The totals don't add." David blinked. Slowly, he shifted the screen, and his heart jolted. She was right. Again. "How did you notice?" he asked. Mary lowered her gaze. "When I clean, I sometimes count in my head. Numbers relax me. I may not have gone to school properly, but I see patterns." David stared at her, stunned. All this time, everyone treated her as invisible. Yet she was sharper than most trained staff he paid fortunes for. Something clicked inside him. A thought wild enough to surprise even himself. What if I ask you to look at some accounts for me? Just to see if you notice details others miss. Mary's eyes widened. Fear flashed. "Me? I'm just a maid." "No," David interrupted, his voice steady. "You're much more than that." In the silence that followed, for the first time, Mary felt seen. But Clara was not blind. She saw the way David was starting to look at the maid, not like a man in love, but like a man who had found someone he could trust. And that, to Clara, was worse than betrayal. One evening, she cornered Mary in the kitchen. Her words dripped with venom. "You think you're clever? Because you spotted a few numbers? Don't forget your place. You clean floors. You don't sit at tables. Step one more inch closer to him, and I'll destroy you." Mary shrank back, trembling, but her silence was fierce. She didn't reply. She just clutched the rag in her hand harder. But Clara's threats were not empty. Behind David's back, she began moving money secretly, using his name. She met with shady businessmen. She whispered lies into the ears of directors, trying to turn them against him. She was preparing war. Weeks later, the storm hit. David walked into his office to find panic everywhere. Staff screaming into phones, managers sweating, lawyers pacing. "What's going on?" he demanded. One of the lawyers stammered. "Sir, funds are missing from 3 accounts. Huge amounts. Contracts signed in your name. We think it was an internal betrayal." David's blood ran cold. "Clara." But before he could even react, Mary slipped into the room shyly. She was carrying a small folder, papers she had copied quietly, while cleaning Clara's private drawer. Her voice was steady, though her hands trembled. "Sir, I think I know who it is." She spread the papers on the table. Signatures, dates, transactions, all leading back to Clara. Gasps filled the office. David's throat tightened. His empire attacked by his own wife. Tears pricked his eyes, but they were not from weakness. They were from fury. Betrayal cut deepest when it came from home. That night, David confronted Clara in the dining hall, the same table where months ago he had almost lost billions. She didn't deny it. She laughed. "Yes, I took the money. Yes, I signed things in your name. Because while you were busy being careful, I was making sure we stayed powerful. You're too soft now, David. Since when do you listen to a maid more than your wife?" Her words were spit, poison wrapped in pride. David's chest rose and fell like a storm. "I built this empire with truth and sweat, not with lies. And the moment you chose betrayal, you chose to end this marriage." Clara's face twisted. "If you think I'll go quietly, you're mistaken. You'll lose everything without me." But David's voice dropped to steel. "The only person I'd lose without is her." Everyone turned. Mary had been standing silently in the corner, watching the firestorm she never wanted. Clara screamed in rage, smashing a glass against the floor. But David didn't flinch this time. He was done. The days that followed were dark, but cleansing. Lawyers moved fast, the media exploded, investors gossiped. Clara tried to fight, but evidence crushed her. And through it all, Mary stood by David, not as his servant, not even as his protector, but as something simpler, someone who told the truth when no one else dared. One evening on the balcony, Lagos lights glittering beneath them, David turned to her. His voice was softer than she'd ever heard. "You saved me, Mary. Not just from losing money, but from losing myself." Her eyes filled with tears. She had never imagined that her life, the maid who once slept on a small mat, unseen and unheard, would change the fate of a billionaire. David reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. Not a ring, but a key. "This is yours," he said. "It belongs to a small apartment in Ikoyi. It's not charity. It's a place that's yours alone. A start. You deserve more than being invisible." Mary's lips trembled. She wanted to speak but couldn't. And for once in her life, her silence was golden. Months later, people whispered in the city. "Have you heard? David Cole fired everyone close and rebuilt his company with new people. And guess what? The maid stands beside him now, sharper than managers with degrees." Investors laughed at first, but when David's company survived a storm that crushed others, nobody laughed again. Clara was gone. The empire was stronger. And in every boardroom now, whenever David sat down with his golden pen, one seat remained empty. But only for one person, the maid with sharp eyes, who saw what no one else did. For money, for pride, even for love, sometimes the truest partner is found in the most unexpected place. A billionaire almost lost everything, until the one person nobody saw, the one overlooked every single day, noticed a small detail. And in that detail, she didn't just save his billions, she saved his soul. And that is the story of how a simple maid saved a billionaire, not just from losing his fortune, but from losing himself. It reminds us of something powerful. Sometimes the people the world overlooks are the ones who see the truth the clearest. Sometimes loyalty comes from the last place you'd expect. And sometimes the smallest detail can change the course of an entire life. Now I want to hear from you. If you were David, what would you have done with Clara, the wife who betrayed him? And what do you think about Mary? Should she remain by his side in business, or keep her distance and live her own life? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll be reading every single one, and I'd love to see where you stand in this story. And hey, if this story pulled at your heart and kept you hooked till the end, do me a favor. Hit that like button, smash the subscribe button, and join the family here on Beyond Yesterday, where we bring you more powerful, emotional, and unforgettable stories every single day. Because who knows, the next story might just change the way you see the world. Until then, stay sharp, stay kind, and remember, even the smallest person can make the biggest difference.